If you love making love-themed cards for Valentine's Day or any time during the year, then this video is for you. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video, I'll be sharing the latest Pretty Pink Posh release for January. I'm super excited to be designing with them for this term, so they sent me the entire release, and it is packed with stamps, dies, stencils, foil plates, and embellishments. Let's do a quick flip through of these new products and then we'll jump into the card making. Okay, I lied a little bit there. It's not going to be a super quick flip through because I want to show you everything stamped out, die cut out, and foiled. So we're just going to go through each item one by one. This is the Large Love Hot Foil and Shadow Die. The other large die is the Large Hugs Hot Foil and Shadow Die. So the great thing about these is if you buy them together, you can cut out the thin die, which is the script of Hugs and Love, and I'm going to use some iCraft Easy Cut adhesive behind some gold glitter cardstock. This is going to allow me to cut out those thin script letters and adhere them down without messing with liquid glue. Once you have the iCraft Easy Cut behind the glitter cardstock, you put the dies with the cutting side down on the glitter cardstock and the adhesive will be on the back. This way, when you die cut it, you can peel these off and they've become a sticker. So that's a great way to use those thin dies. Now, the dies also come with the shadow. For the hugs, I cut the shadow out of vellum, and I love the look on vellum with either white or some type of gold, something like that. It just looks so pretty, like a little shadow, but you can also use regular cardstock. The other thing about those shadows is, especially with the love, I feel like you could use the shadow on its own. It still looks like the word. It's not so thick that you can't read it. So the other thing that they have are the new foil plates. Now these foil plates are phenomenal. I love to temporarily adhere down my foil to my cardstock. This way it doesn't shift around. I think I saw that on the Ellen Hudson Instagram account. So I'm going to pull out my platform and then lay that sandwich down and run it through my die cut machine. And then all you have to do is take the pixie tape that I used to temporarily adhere the foil down and peel it off carefully and check that out. Gorgeous gold Hugs and Love, which can be cut out with those shadow dies. I also wanted to share some with the Spellbinders variety pack. This is a pastel that actually makes a pearlescent look. I just think these colors are so beautiful and work so well with these dies and foil plates. So now I'm going to use the dies to cut everything out. So you can see they go right around that foiled sentiment, and check these out. These are so gorgeous, and now I have a whole bunch of them to use on cards. Next up is the Valentine's Day Strawberry Shortcake and XOXO Clay Confetti. I didn't use those, but we'll see them in the future. These are the Potted Roses stamp set and dies. I'm going to stamp out the images for you so you can see how cute they are. I love their potted sets. Next up is the Sweet Cherries stamp set and dies. So I am going to stamp out all those cherries and the little flowers, and then I'm going to use my Ohuhu markers to color them in. The thing I love about these markers is that they have a brush tip and a bullet tip. So I'm using the brush tip on these because I want to do some shading and blending. Love that the dies cut out all the little images. This is the XOXO stamp set and dies. You may have seen they have other words like this where they spell the word out with tiny little images and then you can color them in. Again, I'm using the Ohuhus so that I can use that bullet tip on one side of the marker to color in those teeny tiny little images. You're not going to get a lot of space for shading and blending there, but on the larger images that come with the stamp set, you are. So you can see with the strawberry, I'm able to use 2 or even 3 colors and they blend beautifully. Next up are the Heart Critters stamp and die sets. I wasn't able to use those in this video. I will use them in the future, so you'll see them again for sure. They're so cute. Next up is the Valentine Mug Edition dies. So I am going to go purchase that mug die set and then use those with these. And they come with a ton of stuff that you could use on other cards as well, even if you don't have the mug dies. So the mug has the spoon and the whipped cream and the beans, but there's also a layered strawberry. There's these two intertwined hearts. There's layered flowers. There's a heart with stitching, and there's some layered chocolates that you can create as well. Lots of little images. These are the Sweet Note dies. I love this die set. It is so easy to use and so much fun. Half of an 8.5 by 11 is way bigger than you need to cut out the entire envelope for the Sweet Note dies. So I'm just going to cut one out, and then I'm going to score at the score line. Just be sure you don't score at the dotted line. It tries to bend there because of that stitching line, but you really want to score at the score line and maybe even use a score tool to reinforce that fold. Once you have that, it just folds up and there's a little tab to hold it closed. So easy and so adorable. You could make little Valentines to give to kids or to friends and family. So there's a square that comes in it. It's a stitch square. You can use it to decorate the outside as well as to create the note or little card that goes inside the fold. This is just a fun, cute little set that you could use throughout the year. This is not just for Valentine's Day. You could decorate it in so many different ways. Next up are the Wonky stitched square dies. I love the whimsical look of these stitched squares, and you could use them as diamonds or as squares. They remind me kind of a throw pillow look, and they're just really cute in cardstock. Next up, we have the stencils. This is the layered Valentine heart stencil pack, which comes with 4 different stencils. So you start with the hearts. You can decorate them with the dots, the stripes, dots and stripes, or you can use those sweetheart candy messages on the hearts. I decided to use a little bit of all 3, and I just stenciled the messages that I wanted, the stripes that I wanted, and the dots that I wanted. Layered Cherries stencils is a 3-pack set of stencils that creates adorable cherries. So I like to use some pixie tape to adhere the stencil to the cardstock, and then I adhere that whole package to my glass mat. I'm going to use some Cherry Kisses ink and an ink blender, and I'm going to start light and then add some more color in. You always want to start light if you can, because you can always add more color, but you obviously can't take it away. So I really try hard to start light, and then you can see that I'm dabbing downward on those cherries, and that's to create a slightly darker edge on the top where that stem will be. So you get a little bit of a gradient of color. Now I'm going to use a smaller blender brush and some Distress Oxide ink and Vintage Photo to create the stems. So I've adhered the stencil down in exactly the same way, and I'm just coloring over those stems. This saves you both ink and time cleaning up the whole stencil if you only have to clean a little bit of those spots. For the leaves, I'm going to cover the whole stencil. I'm using a blending brush and some green ink, but again, I'm going in light and then adding some dark to the edges just to make a little bit more interest on those images, but they're so sweet. It doesn't matter how you color them. They come out so adorable. This is the layered XOXO stencils. Again, this is a 3-pack of stencils. You can do the X's with hearts or the X's with little O's. I'm going to start with the X's in red, and this time I am going full force. I'm going to have completely opaque X's, and it's really easy to do. As long as you have the stencil super held down, you won't skip or move the stencil, and you'll just be able to completely color in all those X's in a completely opaque way. And look at how they came out. I absolutely adore them. For the hearts, I'm going to go a little bit lighter. They don't have to be completely opaque for me. For the hearts, I kind of like that airy look with a little bit of darker edges here and there. And that difference, that contrast between the completely opaque and then the more airy hearts, I think looks really, really nice. And these stencils really help you to almost create your own pattern paper. Last for the stencils are the layered chocolate stencils. Again, a 3-pack of stencils. You can see the base is the chocolates, and then there's a frosting stencil, and then there's a sprinkle stencil. So for this one, I'm going to use Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink and attempt Tim Holtz domed foam ink blender because I really want all those chocolates to have a good amount of color. Again, I'm not going completely opaque. I want little gradients of color there just to add some interest, but for the most part, they are all getting colored in. Now I'm going to heat set this because I want to add something on top, and you know that Distress Oxide reacts with any kind of water. Well, there's some water in this paste. So if you don't dry them, it will completely react with the water and you'll end up with brown frosting. I really wanted to keep it as white as possible. You'll see when it dries, it does get a little bit of a brown tint. That's okay. Once that layer was dry, I put the next layer on, and this time I'm using Lunar Paste. I love this hot pink color, and I'm just going over the little areas that are open in the stencil to create some sprinkles on top. Just make sure you clean off those stencils as soon as you're done. While the Lunar Paste was still wet, I decided to add some fine glitter on top. I love the look of paste with glitter on it. It just is so pretty. And this glitter kind of toned down the pink a little bit, but it adds that sugary look on top. So check this out. Oh my gosh, there's Lunar Paste all over my hand. That's what having fun with card making is, right? So I love the look of those sprinkles. Now that you've seen a quick look at all the supplies in the Pretty Pink Posh January release, let's make some cards. So I cut the stencil cherries down to 4 by 5 1/4. This way I could mat it on some red cardstock. Now I know you love seeing the mistakes, so this one isn't technically a mistake, but I just didn't like the way the red looked. So I peeled it right off the foam tape, and I decided to cut the wonky squares out of a piece of white cardstock. And I'm using one of the sentiments from the Sweet Cherry stamp set that says "You're so sweet," and I'm just gonna pop it right on top of where that foam tape was. I think that looks so much better already. And now I'm going to pop up some of those cherries that I colored in with the Ohuhu markers on some foam tape. I'm gonna place this one flat on the wonky square just underneath, so it looks like there's 3 cherries in that grouping, and the little flowers on top are just the perfect touch. I love this so much better than the way the last one came out. For the stenciled chocolates, I'm going to cut a strip off, and I have about 2 chocolates on that strip, and I'm going to adhere that down to a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of cardstock. I'm going to use one X and one O from the XOXO, and I'm going to use a stamp that says Hugs and Kisses in between the X and the O. Then I'm going to pop up the X and the O for a little bit of dimension there, and it is so much fun to see how the little images inside the XOXO really go with the larger chocolates, but it's fun to use just a piece because then you have more for another card. For the XOXO stencil, I cut it out with the Pretty Pink Posh scallop frames dies, and I'm going to cut out the same frame out of white cardstock. So I've adhered down the XOXO center of that frame, and then I'm going to use the white piece that I cut out popped up on top, and I just think it gives it a fun look. Then I'm going to cut a small wonky squares out of pink, and I'm using that same Hugs and Kisses stamp again, which I really like. It's just, I love that small font. It fits perfectly, but it also is just such a cute little message on top of the stencil that says XOXO. And then one of the hearts that I colored from the XOXO stamp set, I'm going to put on top as a little embellishment. For this card, I am going to use the rest of that stenciled chocolate background, and I have that foiled Hugs that I die cut out. I also die cut the shadow out of white fun foam to pop that up. Now I'm going to mat the rest of the chocolates on some pink cardstock. So I'm just going to adhere it down to pink and then cut around the edge. And last, I'm going to pop that onto an A2 piece of white cardstock. So we have 2 mats there. Last but least, I'm going to stamp a little greeting that says "Sweetest Wishes." And I'm going to pop that up once I turn it into a sentiment strip, just to add a little something underneath that Hugs foiled sentiment. And I love the way that the sprinkles and the frosting turned out on those chocolates. For the little note card, I did use the other XOXO, bow that we colored in with the bullet tip of the Ohuhus. And I'm going to use some of those chocolates that were the larger images from the XOXO stamp set and just decorate the outside with a couple of chocolates and a heart. For the inside, I did die cut that square with the little piercings around it, and I stamped You're So Sweet from the Cherry stamp set, and then I'm using those pieces from the XOXO stamp set that we colored in to decorate that note card. And you could put a little message on the back as well. For the other side of the note card, I'm going to use that little intertwined hearts from the Valentine mug edition dies just to decorate that side as well. Really cute how this came together. So easy to do, and I love how you could make these for everyone in your family or everyone in your kids' class or whatever you are creating for. I'm going to cut out of those stenciled hearts a large wonky square, and then I'm going to pop it up on some white cardstock. Then I have the foiled hugs that I used, that pearlescent blue. I've popped it up on some white fun foam that I cut out of the hugs shadow. Last but not least, I'm going to use the Stitched Borders 4 dies to cut out some lavender scallops for the top and bottom of the card. I don't know about you, but this release from Pretty Pink Posh just makes me so happy. I love to make love cards. If you do too, let me know in the comments below. YouTube thinks you might want to check out this video next. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon.